is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Joy Taylor's joining us hour 2. Joy, how are you?
I'm great. Had a great weekend.
Yeah, I'll get to the fight stuff in a little bit, but that was a crazy weekend in Las Vegas for the fight stuff. But every Monday we do it at this time. Every single Monday we do it. In fact, it's gotten so popular we do it during the course of the year, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. So let's not waste any time. Let's hit it.
Where Colin was right?
Listen, our Blazin'5, right now I'm hitting 65% on the year. That is, we're on fire. And it's not just that we're winning. We picked underdogs. We picked Arizona as an underdog to go on the road and win. We picked the Jets over Denver, Sam Darnold. We picked the Vikings over the Philadelphia Eagles. By the way, I've got Monday night. I've got Washington as an underdog beating New Orleans tonight. So I think the thing that makes me proudest, not only that we've had 4 out of 5 winning weeks, but these games are very close. There's a lot of offense. Translation, that means what they call in the business backdoor covers, where a team gets outplayed, but they score a late touchdown. When touchdowns are easier, take underdogs to cover. That's been my theory, and we've been right.
Where Colin was wrong.
For years, I have defended Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys. He's not the most creative coach. But I thought yesterday was a moment, and I thought he failed the moment, is that he's got to know. Outplayed for 3.5 hours on the road with a struggling offense. This team has no identity. And Jason Garrett, and I don't like to crush coaches on game calling. It's hard. They've looked at film. But when you're on the road and you've been outplayed and you can steal a W, you got to know that is a moment and you have to go for it. And I gotta take one for the team here. I was wrong. I've been so favorable toward him, and I thought in that moment he kind of butchered it.
Where Colin was so right, it's getting annoying.
I think my greatest prediction in the history of this show happened this weekend. So all these rookie quarterbacks, 3 of the 4 were underdogs, and the Jets was a pick 'em, and I said on Friday, I think the rookie quarterbacks are going to go 4-0. Because I think if you look at the games, I said, Sam Darnold, Denver on a short week, Jets played the worst game they've played in years. Watch them be buttoned up tight. They did. I said, watch Josh Rosen. Nobody watched him the previous week because we were watching Baker Mayfield. Watch him come out and be great. I said, watch Baker Mayfield. They've got weapons. He's shown he can play. Baltimore's coming off an emotional win. And what do you know? All the rookie quarterbacks won. Even Josh Allen, who wasn't great. But I'll tell you this about Josh Allen. That kid can run. He's a big kid that can move around and make throws, maybe run too much. But I said on a Friday, even though they're underdogs, this is going to be the weekend of the rookie quarterbacks coming out and all kicking major butt. Got to be honest with you. That's the greatest right in the history of this show.
Where Colin was wrong.
Yeah, Conor McGregor met his mismatch from hell. This was not really competitive. Now, Conor's always one of those guys that doesn't look like he trains as much as everybody else, but I thought by the second round he looked gassed. But this was really about fights. Styles make fights. This was a terrible style. Dana White had never given Conor McGregor this kind of fighter, and now we know why. He just looked awkward. He lost 2 fights. He lost the fight in the ring, and then when the fight was over, and then the melee, he lost that one too. This was a bad night. I mean,
Who was right?
You were right.
Tried to tell you.
Yeah, Khabib, I'm not going to feed my kids for a couple days because I bet a fortune on this, and I went down in flames.
Where Colin was right?
Did I tell you or did I tell you that puff your chest Philadelphia would come back down to earth? I thought they'd still be a good team, but when Lane Johnson said, I'd rather have fun and win a Super Bowl than be miserable and win 5, that is an awful, embarrassing comment for an athlete. This is about winning. This is not like society where you have social nets for those who fail. People who lose are losers. People who win are winners. It's not about having a good time. It's about winning games and in the process creating relationships and environments that we all flourish. But it's hard. Football players work hard. They get hit. They get hurt. There's no guaranteed contract. This is a sport for men. It's a hard sport. So if you want to get to work and screw off and do a dog mask, know that Jonathan Ogden and Walter Jones and Ray Lewis and Brady, it's hard work. And we sleep for 8 hours We have fun with our families for 8 hours, and we work. And there's a reason it's called work, and there's a reason it's called a holiday party. Because football is the hardest of all sports. And Lane Johnson, we predicted it.
Where Colin was wrong.
I have supported Hugh Jackson forever, even last year. But when they went to overtime, and he didn't know, did you see him put his hand up here? He said 2 seconds left. Hey, dude, hold on. There's a moment here. I don't think Hugh Jackson quite knows. He doesn't quite know. If we have the picture of it, I think he doesn't know overtime's over. I don't think he knows it's over. He's waving his players back off the field, and the game's over. Listen, I get players, especially young players, not knowing every overtime rule. I get that. I'm not saying every official has to be Mike Pereira, but a head coach's job is to know all the overtime stuff. And I've supported Hugh Jackson. I supported him. I said he deserved to keep his job, and he went 0-16. But you got to know the rules, Hugh. The game was over. You want, especially in Cleveland, when you got to know the rules when the game's over, because you don't win many of those when it's over.
Where Colin was right.
Listen, we didn't have the Packers last week in our top 10 and got a lot of pushback. And I said, folks, they don't have a running game. Their leading rusher yesterday had 40 yards. Yesterday it was their kicking game. They got into a whole 24-0. I can be critical of Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know. When I look at this team, I don't see Baltimore's talent. I don't see Pittsburgh's talent. I don't see New Orleans' talent. I don't see the Rams' talent. I don't see the Houston Texans' talent. I don't see it. And when I look at Green Bay, I just do not see dynamic offensive, defensive, pass rusher, running plays. So I'll say it again. I don't think they're a top 10 team in the NFL, and frankly, I thought Aaron Rodgers had a bad first half. He didn't look like a top 10 quarterback in the first half yesterday.
Where Colin was wrong.
Listen, I had Baltimore as my number 2 team in the league. And yesterday, Joe Flacco went back to Joe Flacco. I got a question. Joe Flacco's 6'5". How does he have that many passes batted down? I can't. Colt McCoy didn't have that many passes batted down. I can't figure it out. They had a red zone pick. They didn't have a touchdown all day. And frankly, they got too many weapons. And they have a nice running back. This team has too many weapons to not score a touchdown. And Cleveland's got all sorts of alphas. They got all sorts of dudes. But Joe Flacco, with those tight ends and those receivers and that back and that coaching staff, there's been a lot of continuity here in Baltimore. A lot of continuity. You can't give me yesterday. And I defended Joe Flacco. And I said he was going to have a big year. And I'm not taking anything away from Baker. He threw for a lot of yards. But everybody's been telling me for 3 weeks I'm crazy on Joe Flacco love. You were right, I was wrong.
Where Colin was right.
I said I didn't like the Gruden thing. They're 1-4. Derek Carr is struggling. And Derek Carr's a heck of a player. But he's got 7 TDs and 8 picks under John Gruden. Marshawn Lynch is a good back. Doug Martin's a good back. The O-line's above average. Jared Cook's a good tight end. Amari Cooper can catch. Martavius Bryant's a good deep threat. Jordy Nelson can still play. I don't want to hear excuses. 2 years ago, Derek Carr was an MVP candidate. Now he looks like he's lost confidence. And, by the way, the Raiders are last in sacks. They gave up Khalil Mack, which I hated. I'm not an expert here. But when you have that kind of offensive personnel, and you got Derek Carr, and you got that tight end and 2 backs and 3 wide receivers and that offensive line, I don't want to hear about Derek Carr 7 TDs, 8 picks. Right now, the Gruden thing, I look right.
Where Colin was wrong.
I had Atlanta in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I kind of whiffed on that. Now, some of it's injuries, but they did solve their red zone problems, and there's so much about this team and this staff I like. But in the end, yesterday was classic. They just got bullied. They got bullied at the line of scrimmage. And this is the thing that I always struggle with Atlanta, and I do this all the time. That football is about moments, and it's about toughness, and you can't teach a lot of that toughness and a lot of those moments. Gosh, I always feel like Atlanta in those moments gets bullied, gets pushed around, and doesn't deliver. And I can't put my arms around it. But I went all in on him this year, and how many times in the moment, yesterday wasn't even competitive. Those were 2 reeling teams. One showed up, one didn't. And with that, my favorite time, Trent Dilfer, 14 years, Super Bowl champ, Pro Bowler. Let's bring him on the show. We get him in studio today. This is a gift.
I'm proud of you. I feel like normally you spend way more time on when you're right than when you're wrong. But that was good there. You spent a lot of time on when you're wrong.
I was